He's led one of the most recognizable telecommunications brands in the country through digital transformation. But behind the corporate leadership is a man with deep community roots, a family man, a believer in service. My guest today is Vice President at Flow, Stephen Price. I'm Archibald Gordon. This is Profile. Stephen Price, welcome to Profile.
Absolutely delighted to be here.
And we're delighted to have you. I have quite a story and we want to share a little bit about it. But first, just a little bit of background to it. So, Vice President and General Manager of Flow Jamaica, quite a career. Mm-hmm. One of the most recognized brands in the country, not just in the telecommunications industry overall. But before all of that, before all of the corporate history, and we'll get into it, the backstory, let's talk a little bit about that. Where did you grow up and what kind of environment shaped you as a child?
I grew up in Constant Spring. I lived with my mother and my brother and my sister, Andrew Price, Cheryl Price, we are a very tight-knit family. I think for me, I grew up in a single-parent home. My dad left when I was 6 years old to New York for the typical American dream, but some of the stories are not necessarily always written in glory, Some are littered with failure. And my father at the time actually found himself in difficulties and just, I guess, the Jamaican male sometimes, when it's an embarrassing situation, just chose never to come back, So I was raised by my mother. She was a secretary at Scotiabank. Honestly, I do not know how she did it. Raising 3 children, and it has been an immense journey of lessons and learning and the strength of a woman just in terms of how she raised us all, So I am one of the lucky ones who stuck to the path. She put me through school. I got a solid education, and the journey began, I started at Alpha Kinder Prep. I know closed down. It was right up the road from Alpha Primary. Played football there like any kid, did common entrance there. Made all prep football team then. So I was all focused on football and sport at the time. I took my sojourn to St. George's College, Ad Majorem Dei Gloriam. I'm a proud Georgian through and through, and I spent my high school days up to sixth form there, I was a beadle there, which is like a class prefect. I was a prefect in sixth form. I played Manning Cup. I played Pepsi football. I was coached by Neville Burtis-Bell as well, and
another proud graduate of St.
Another proud graduate of St. George's College. And interesting enough, I only played one game in my entire school career, and it happened to be the finals of the Walker Cup, which you won.
You speak of the history there of St. George's, and I want to get to that moment, but you say you don't understand how your mother did it. What was she doing? What was she saying to you?
No, well, I knew at the time just how secretaries were paid then. And she was like the general manager secretary at the time, so it was really, really, really low pay. So my mother at the time, she said, boy, this was tough. And she went and did a floral arranging course. And my mother, every single day in life, went to purchase her flowers from Shields and Shields. She made her arrangements, made her baskets. I helped her to write up the cards every day. And she didn't take lunch any single day. She did deliveries in the morning, she did deliveries at lunchtime, she did deliveries after work,
There's this full-time job and a full-time job.
And a full-time job just to make ends meet. Even though the journey was difficult, she wasn't going to let us know because we knew that everything was taken care of. She wasn't going to give all the backstories later in life that you really understand just the struggles that you went through at the time. Some days, sometimes, she didn't know where the school fee was going to come from. So if my brother didn't get a scholarship to FIU through football, there was only a Jamaican path for that. My sister, she got a scholarship to Nicosia, Cyprus to do hotel management. If that didn't happen, it would have been rough. I was the only one that she had to put through college, and I went to CAST. No, University of Technology. I won't date myself so much, right? And you know, she paid the way for me, and I am forever grateful to my mother for teaching me life lessons of perseverance, of strength, of struggle through hardship, quiet battles, but always maintaining that strong chin, so that in any battle, in any challenge you have, you know there's a way out at the other side.
Let's talk a little bit about that experience at St. George's. You say we're very, very involved. How did St. George's shape you in terms of the future and then going on to UTech?
I think St. George's is a university of building better men. And I've had many great lessons, and my life has been littered with solid mentors. Father Bradley, Valerie Virgo, Mr. Blanco, a couple big teachers and big figures in St. George's acclaim who really mentored, and really it was a time when teachers and faculty really cared about children.
When you're saying mentoring, what are you talking about? What does that look like?
In terms of life lessons, in terms of making education fun, in terms of making education practical, in terms of life lessons. And that's what I got at St. George's College. And I think as well, my upbringing, my father was a real staunch Catholic. And by that, I also was in the Catholic Church. I used to go every weekend to my grandmother, who lived at 12 3/4 South Camp Road. So it's right near Holy Trinity. So I was an altar server at Holy Trinity Cathedral for several years, up till just below my 20s, right? So I had a firm groundation in the church, and really built a solid moral compass. Real strong people like Father Ferris, who really guided us. So even though I did lack male mentorship, and my mother, I would always say my mother who fathered me, I also had real strong mentors and strong men who I could look up to and learn real life lessons through.
Both in church as well as in school. And I want to talk about how, you know, in going on to CAST, College of Science and Technology, Art, Science and Technology, before UTech, you know, how you made that choice and what you decided to do. But we have to take our first break on Profile. We're getting to know Stephen Price and how he found his footing in the corporate world and what really it takes to lead in a fast-changing industry. We'll be back after these messages.